Picture this: 15,000 screaming fans, blinding spotlights, and the king of rock and roll himself commanding the stage. Then, without warning, Elvis Presley throws down his microphone, storms past his bewildered band, and vanishes into the wings, leaving thousands in stunned silence. What could drive the world's biggest entertainer to abandon his audience mid-song? The answer reveals a darker side of fame that few ever witnessed, involving personal demons, professional pressure, and moments of vulnerability that humanized the legend forever. The most documented incident occurred on February 20th, 1977, at the Pontiac Silverdome in Michigan, what would become known as the night Elvis broke. Midway through Hound Dog, America's most beloved performer simply stopped singing. The music continued, the crowd waited, but Elvis had reached his breaking point. Witnesses described a man who seemed to be fighting an invisible battle. His jumpsuit, once a symbol of his larger-than-life persona, appeared to weigh him down like armor that no longer fit. The pills that helped him cope with chronic pain and insomnia had begun affecting his coordination and judgment. On that February night, the cocktail of prescription medications, Demerol, Quaaludes, and various amphetamines, created a perfect storm of confusion and paranoia. But the walk-off wasn't just about drugs. Elvis had been performing the same setlist for months, trapped in a Vegas-style routine that felt increasingly hollow. The spontaneity that once defined his performances had been systematically eliminated by his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who prioritized profit over artistry. Every song, every move, every interaction with the audience had become mechanically rehearsed, the pressure of maintaining his image as the infallible king of rock and roll was crushing. Behind the sequined jumpsuits and charismatic smile, Elvis struggled with depression, weight gain, and a deep sense of artistic dissatisfaction. He yearned to record meaningful music, to act in serious films, to grow as an artist, but found himself imprisoned by his own success. When he walked off that Michigan stage, leaving 60,000 fans in bewildered silence, it wasn't just a performer having a bad night. It was a man desperately trying to reclaim control over a life that had spiraled beyond his recognition. The incident lasted only 12 minutes before he returned to finish the show, but those 12 minutes revealed the human being behind the legend, fragile, struggling, and profoundly alone, despite being surrounded by millions of admirers worldwide. Las Vegas was supposed to be Elvis's triumphant return to live performance after years of mediocre movies. The 1969 comeback special had reignited his passion for music, and the initial Vegas residency at the International Hotel seemed like the perfect solution. But what began as artistic resurrection slowly transformed into a glittering prison that would define his final years. The Vegas format was restrictive by design. Colonel Parker negotiated deals that kept Elvis stationary, eliminating the risks and expenses of world tours while maximizing profit. 2 shows a night, 7 days a week, for months at a time. The schedule was brutal. The same songs, the same jokes, the same choreographed spontaneity night after night. For an artist who had once revolutionized popular music through innovation and raw energy, the repetition was soul-crushing. Elvis began showing signs of rebellion early in the Vegas years. He would sometimes change the setlist without warning, leaving his band scrambling to follow along. Other nights, he would extend songs far beyond their usual length, improvising lyrics that revealed his inner turmoil. "I'm so tired of singing the same old songs," he once told the audience during a particularly candid moment in 1973. The prescription drug dependency that would ultimately contribute to his death began as a practical necessity. The Vegas schedule demanded superhuman stamina performing while dealing with chronic back pain, insomnia, and the emotional exhaustion of living under constant scrutiny. Doctors provided pills for energy, pills for sleep, pills for pain, and pills for the anxiety that came from being Elvis Presley 24 hours a day. Several smaller walk-offs occurred during the Vegas years, usually attributed to technical difficulties or brief illnesses. But insiders knew the truth. Elvis was slowly suffocating under the weight of his own legend. The spontaneous, dangerous performer who had scandalized Ed Sullivan's audience was being systematically replaced by a predictable entertainer delivering a carefully packaged nostalgia show. The irony was devastating. Vegas made Elvis incredibly wealthy, but artistically bankrupt. He sold out every show while feeling like he was selling out his soul. The walk-offs weren't just moments of unprofessionalism. They were desperate gasps for creative air in an increasingly suffocating environment that prioritized commercial success over artistic integrity. Away from the spotlight, Elvis Presley was fighting battles that his adoring public never saw. A man who could command any stage in the world struggled with crippling social anxiety, profound loneliness, and a desperate need for authentic human connection that fame made nearly impossible to achieve. His inner circle, known as the Memphis Mafia, served as both protection and isolation. While they provided companionship and loyalty, they also created a bubble that separated Elvis from reality. Few people in his life were willing or able to tell him hard truths about his declining health, his drug dependency, or his increasingly erratic behavior. The walk-offs were symptoms of a man who had lost touch with genuine feedback and honest relationships. The prescription drug problem wasn't a matter of recreational abuse. Elvis genuinely believed he was managing his health under medical supervision. Multiple doctors provided different medications for legitimate concerns. Barbiturates for insomnia caused by his nocturnal schedule, amphetamines for energy during grueling performance runs, and painkillers for chronic back problems stemming from his dynamic stage movements. The dangerous combinations were often uncoordinated between physicians. Personal relationships suffered under the strain of his public persona. His marriage to Priscilla had ended, and his relationship with his daughter Lisa Marie was complicated by his erratic schedule and emotional instability. The women in his life often found themselves competing with his career, his entourage, and his inner demons for his attention and affection. Elvis's spiritual searching intensified during these troubled years. He studied various religious and philosophical texts, seeking meaning beyond the material success that had failed to fulfill him. The walk-offs sometimes occurred during periods of intense spiritual crisis, when the contradiction between his public image and private emptiness became unbearable. Music remained his primary emotional outlet, but even that refuge was being compromised. The creative control he craved was consistently denied in favor of commercially safe choices. When he did manage to record meaningful material, it often received little promotion or support. The artistic frustration, combined with personal turmoil, created a volatile emotional state that could explode without warning, sometimes in the middle of a performance before thousands of witnesses. The walk-offs of Elvis's final years weren't isolated incidents of unprofessional behavior. They were warning signs of a man in crisis, desperate signals from an artist who had lost control of his own narrative. Each incident revealed another crack in the carefully constructed facade of the king of rock and roll, showing the world glimpses of the vulnerable human being trapped inside the legend. The most tragic aspect of these incidents was how they were dismissed or covered up by those around him. Rather than recognizing them as cries for help, the walk-offs were often attributed to technical problems, brief illnesses, or artistic temperament. The enablement extended beyond his inner circle to include venue management, promoters, and even fans who were so invested in the Elvis myth that they couldn't acknowledge his obvious distress. The financial pressures surrounding Elvis made intervention nearly impossible. Too many people depended on his earning power for their own livelihoods. Colonel Parker's gambling debts meant that Elvis needed to continue performing regardless of his physical or mental state. The machine built around his celebrity had become more important than the man himself, creating a situation where his breakdown was less important than maintaining the income stream. Medical professionals who might have helped were often more interested in maintaining access to the celebrity, patient than providing proper care. The lack of coordination between different doctors, combined with Elvis's ability to manipulate medical situations through his charm and wealth, created a perfect storm of pharmaceutical mismanagement that contributed to both his erratic behavior and his eventual death. The walk-offs also revealed Elvis's enduring connection with his audience, despite his personal struggles. Even during his worst moments, he rarely left fans completely abandoned. Most incidents involved brief exits followed by returns and attempts to salvage the performance. His fundamental respect for his audience and his professional obligations remained intact even when his personal life was falling apart. In retrospect, the walk-offs serve as tragic footnotes to a career that could have ended very differently with proper intervention, medical care, and honest support from those around him. They remind us that behind every larger-than-life celebrity is a human being deserving of compassion, understanding, and genuine care rather than exploitation and enablement. Elvis Presley's mid-concert walk-offs weren't moments of diva behavior. They were desperate attempts by a troubled man to reclaim control over a life that had spiraled beyond his grasp. These incidents offer us a poignant reminder that success don't shield anyone from human frailty, personal demons, or the need for genuine connection and support. Ready to explore more untold stories of music's biggest legends? Subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive behind-the-scenes content that reveals the human side of your favorite artists. Click the link below and join thousands of music fans who want to know the real stories behind the myths. Subscribe now. Get weekly music legends revealed.